everyone, welcome to The Compass. A distinguished and well-eloquent women voices in the history of Indian Parliament. A lady elected from the Krishnanagar constituency in West Bengal, constantly speaking against communal violence, gender atrocities, and fascist, misogynist state. Today we have with us the most eloquent, strongest, and sharpest voice of dissent, Honorable Member of Parliament, Mahua Maitra. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Ma'am, let me begin with the ideology or the politics of representation that you have chosen. When we are traveling through a very tough time, both historically and politically, we are seeing Trinamool Congress as one of the strongest forces in the opposition. So how do you see it to be a hope for the future, and how do you see Mamata Banerjee to be a big enough a kind of hope for us?
What's happened in India now is that most people are just feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
A lot of people voted in the BJP not because they wanted a divisive, rabid fascist state. A lot of people were sick of the Congress, they were sick of the paralysis, they were sick of the corruption, and they felt that the BJP would bring some change. So everyone who voted in the BJP was not the right-wing extreme. A lot of middle class, middle of the path voters also voted them in 2014. In 2019, again, people thought that we've given them 5 years. What is the alternative? Let's give them some more time. India is such a large country. You need 10 years to make a difference. But today, after 7 years, people have realized that everyone who even voted for the BJP is in shock, because nobody wanted this. You see, why did you vote in the BJP? You said they will change the economy. They will bring India back on the 8 to 10% growth path. They will be more equitable for the poor. They will bring in distribution. All the basics such as Bijli, Sadak, Pani, which we haven't done very well since independence, they will do. They have failed miserably in all of those things. The Indian economy has never been as bad as it is today. So whatever they came to power on, which is on the back of the economy, on the back of economic success, they have not delivered on. On the other side, what we have today is an India that we can't recognize. And most people are feeling hopeless because this government has come with a brute majority. They have over 300 seats. They are bulldozing every legislation. We are in opposition only in name. We can't stop any legislation in Parliament. And in all the states that you see the institutional breakdown, you see the way they are controlling media, you see the way that even the judiciary in many ways is falling in line. So in all of those things, the big institutions, the Election Commission, the CBI, all the institutional democratic frameworks are in danger today. And that's what people are feeling hopeless about. And that's where Trinamool Congress comes in and says that, listen, there is an alternative. And we think that to defeat Mr. Modi, you need an equally strong Uberman with a 57-inch chest. That's not true. We have seen through history, when people want to get rid of a fascist dictator, that sometimes anybody can do it. And with the Bengal elections and with the victory that we've had in the face of all odds, today Trinamool Congress has really been the rallying point of all, I would say, right-thinking people who want to reclaim the country.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So how do you define parliamentary democracy at a time when we have the government at power, which has a massive majority, support, and you people are trying to give an equal dissent, but it is not considered. Even in the Pegasus issue, we were seeing that you were being continuously interrupted in between. Yeah. So what do you say about that?
No, this is the problem. This is the problem with a parliamentary democracy such as ours, because majority rules. You see, in Europe, you have proportional representation, where even if you have 6% vote share, you can get, 10 seats in parliament. But in India, because we follow the British system, which is first past the post, that maybe the BJP has 100 seats with only 1,000 vote margin. But because it's first past the post, even though the combined opposition have won close to 60%, BJP has won less than 40% mandate, but they have a brute majority. So as a result of which, our voices are not heard in parliament. They are bulldozing legislation, and also Lok Sabha TV, Rajya Sabha TV. What is their mandate? Their mandate is to show what is happening in parliament. They are paid for by your money, by my money, by taxpayers' money. But Rajya Sabha TV and Lok Sabha TV are not even showing the cameras on what we are doing. They are continuously focusing on the speaker, on the chairman, on the treasury benches. So our voters, your parents, my parents, they are saying, what are you doing in parliament? Because they can't see what we are doing. So it looks as though they are passing all the bills and we are saying nothing about it. There is no discussion, there is no debate. So unfortunately, I think Indians need to think about who they give a brute majority to.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah. So when Indians are hunted these days in the name of UAPA, draconian
Yes.
colonial laws like these, and I have heard you saying that we are going through an undeclared emergency.
Right.
So how do you think, what is the strategy for fighting this right-wing fascist regime these days?
The strategy is basically the one we've used in Bengal, which is you just need to stand straight. The problem with the BJP and the government in power is they're like a pack of wolves. They think that if a pack of wolves comes and they go on surrounding you and they are attacking you, that everyone gets scared. You have to stand like a lion. Like a lion, even faced with a pack of wolves, is still a lion. So the way we faced them in Bengal, they were ahead of us 10-1 in terms of money and resources. They control the election commission. They control the Central Reserve Police forces. But even then, we stood up and we said that we are going to fight back. And the voters were with us. So I think the Bengal results have really shown that it's possible to defeat them. And that's how we have to defeat them. We have to stand up straight and say, you're just a pack of hunting wolves. And I'm sorry, we are better than that. And we are going to stand up and we are going to say no.
Yeah. So, ma'am, coming to another side, I have heard you saying about sexual harassments and everything. You were very vocal about that, about the former Chief Justice of India who was accused of these allegations. So, even I feel so insecure in a country like India to say that I have been haunted, silencing me every time, or any random women. Even very recently we saw that Muslim women were attacked by developing an app called Sulli Deals.
Yeah.
Virtually buying and selling them their bodies, their pictures and everything. So how do you think that there is a kind of Sangh Parivar misogynist thing working out, and how they are trying to silence each and every woman in the country?
This is something that we've seen over and over again. This, unfortunately, is part of Indian culture. Misogyny is not new in Indian culture. Patriarchy, unfortunately, is not new. Gender inequality is not new. Now, as responsible political parties and as political leaders, it is up to all of us to do our bit. So, for example, the Trinamool Congress and the Biju Janata Dal are the two parties that have not waited for women's reservation bill. A bill, you don't need to wait for a bill to tell you the right thing to do. Right? Yeah. You don't need for a law to tell you that you can't beat your wife. You just don't do it. So similarly, we have got over 33% in parliament in our MPs, so does the Biju Janata Dal. Whereas the BJP is abysmal, is absolutely abysmal. We only have 12% women in parliament. So when we can't do that in parliament, when all the parties can come together on things like the OBC bill, when parties come together on when the BJP is doing ordinance after ordinance, why don't they move an ordinance on the women's reservation bill? Right? So you saw in UP, in a state like UP, they didn't give a single ticket to a Muslim. They don't have a single... in the NDA today, Mehboob Ali Kezer is the only elected MP, that too from an ally. He's from the LJP, which is an ally. So, when you see the numbers and you see the kind of gender inequality, the kind of religious inequality that the Sangh Parivar is doing, and it really shows the mirror to the worst that Indian society has to offer. So it's high time we stand up and do it. And, when I spoke about Gogoi in Parliament, I didn't say anything that was contemptuous and I didn't say anything that was wrong. You saw that this was a Chief Justice who had been accused. The accused person who had been accused, the poor victim was not allowed to depose. They created an atmosphere where the Chief Justice himself was calling the inquiry. Yeah. The person presiding over the inquiry was the next Chief Justice in line who was reporting to the Chief Justice. The conflict of interest was so enormous. And yet when I spoke about it, they were shouting and screaming. I even got veiled threats from members of the judiciary telling me that, oh, Justice Gogoi will put 100 crore defamation suit on you. It's ridiculous, So, and all you can do is stand up and say, do what you have to. Blow your pipe till you burst, because we have to stand by the right thing.
Yeah. So you were talking about religious inequalities too. So there is rampant Islamophobia, like from south to the
Yes.
north. You can see Muslim comedians, journalists,
Yeah.
students, activists, professors. Everyone is behind the bars, and Muslim ghettos areas.
Absolutely.
Everything is under attack. So we had the Delhi pogrom last year, and we had the Jantar Mantar anti-Muslim sloganeering last day. So how do you think, is this the agenda they are putting forward to transform India into a
Yes, of course, this is the
Hindutva?
agenda. I mean, can't you see that? This is a party, for example, in the Bengal elections. So Bengal is close to 30% Muslim, 28%. For the first time, as a politician, all of us as leaders, when it comes to governance, when it comes to development, we want to carry everyone along, right? So as a politician, if I am going out canvassing for votes or whatever, I would like to appeal to everyone. I would like to take everyone along. But when you see the BJP campaign, they just want to appeal to the 70% of the population, and they completely exclude the 30%, right? So they are saying that, listen, we are not even going to try and appeal to the 30%. We appeal to the 70%, and if we get 50% of that, we are set. So this is the kind of mindset that we have. If you saw Munawar didn't even crack the joke. He was in jail for 35 days. You saw Siddiq Kapan is still in jail. And he was going to report. He was on the way to Hathras. They put the UAPA. Whereas you see this Upadhyaya yesterday, he's organized a protest in Jantar Mantar in the heart of the city without police permission. You have 6-7 people on full view in video abusing. You saw the kind of terrible abuse. He gets bail in a day. You saw when you had the Nizamuddin during that COVID, this Tablighi Jamaat, where they were being hounded as, bioterrorists. And then you had the Kumbh allowed, where 95 lakh people went in. And they went into every strait and spread it. So, I mean, this is insane. Like I tweeted yesterday, am I the only one who thinks this is wrong? I think Indians seem to have lost their conscience somewhere along the way. We've really lost their conscience. We seem to think everything is okay. Until that changes, the BJP is going to get away with it.
Yeah. So I think that's a formal question. Now it's a very personal question. How do you feel after moving from corporate to a completely different Indian politics? Are you like exhausted fighting with all the men?
I feel physically exhausted sometimes. As you know, it's a very tiring. I think I've aged 20 years in the last 5 years. So yes, I do feel physically exhausted, but mentally, no. I think we have so much to go, and I'm lucky to be in a position where out of a 1.3 billion people, I'm one of 543. So think about the blessings of God and the blessings of people that I'm here. So I can't be exhausted. So we really have miles to go before we sleep, and we've got to keep fighting till we reclaim our country. So thank you so much, and keep doing this. It's very, very important that young people like you, come and we do more and more of these interactions, that people can listen, people can think, and people can do their part. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.